Exposed, the heartwarming journey of unexpected rejection that transformed our family forever. In the quaint heart of a small Midwestern town, where sunsets cast golden hues across expansive cornfields, Sarah Bennett felt the weight of the world settle heavily on her shoulders. A single mother at 35, she juggled two jobs. One at the local diner where the coffee always flowed and another at the convenience store that lit up the corner of Main Street. Days blurred into nights. Sarah fought tirelessly for her two children, Jake and Lily, determined to carve out a better life for them. Jake, at just 16, had dreams that reached beyond the clouds. He poured his heart into songwriting, strumming guitar riffs that echoed through their modest home, filling every corner with a melody of hope. But one fateful day, everything changed. Jake had tried out for a prestigious arts program, a beacon of light for budding musicians. The rejection letter felt like a knife through Sarah's heart. She watched as he became a shadow of his former self, retreating into silence. Their family, once filled with laughter and hope, now felt like a fragile shell, encased in disappointment. Each dinner transformed into a stifling silence where unspoken words hung in the air like plumes of smoke. Suddenly, Sarah wasn't just a mother. She felt the sting of societal judgment, a weight pressing down on her. Here in this tight-knit community, the whispers about her struggles echoed louder than any guitar riff Jake had ever played. When she tried to coax him from his solitude, her words seemed to clash with her own insecurities. Could she truly be enough? Their home became a battleground of expectations and failures, a place where dreams faltered and smiles faded. Just as Sarah feared the impending spiral toward despair, hope stepped in unexpectedly. She ran into Mike, her old friend and retired veteran, who lit a spark in her with his idea for a local arts festival. It was as if the universe had handed her a lifeline, reminding her of the tender dreams that still burned within her son. She signed up as a volunteer, heart racing that maybe this would reignite Jake's passion. But doubt lingered. What could she possibly contribute when her own life felt so broken? The day of the festival dawned, vibrant and alive with possibility. Sarah stood amidst stalls filled with handmade crafts and laughter, but her heart raced as she spotted Jake. He was reluctantly being ushered to the makeshift stage, clutching his guitar with white-knuckled determination. As the spotlight hit him, the air began to suffocate with tension. All eyes were on him, every hesitant gaze, every quiet murmur, every ounce of expectation pressed down like a heavy cloak. Just when Jake's fingers trembled against the strings, a voice broke through the silence from a familiar face in the crowd, an old neighbor, encouraging him to remember the joy of playing music for the love of it, not the fear of failure. With that voice wrapping around him like a warm embrace, Jake dissolved the walls he'd built around himself. The crowd held its collective breath, and Sarah's heart swelled with pride, feeling something shift. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. But just as she thought they began to stitch their lives back together, an unexpected twist unfurled in their hearts, reminding them that even as they soared, the struggles of their past loomed large. Jake's fingers danced across the guitar strings, igniting a spark of catharsis, and yet a flicker of uncertainty remained. Could they overcome the societal barriers weighing them down? With the crowd's chants rising to a crescendo, Sarah realized that while this was a turning point, the most critical chapter of their story was only just beginning. Jake took a deep breath, his heart pounding as the crowd erupted into applause. The music flowed through him like a river, carrying away the weight of his self-doubt. Each chord he struck seemed to stitch new threads into the fabric of their family, knitting them together with hope and resilience. The voices urging him on transformed from mere sounds into a chorus of belief, filling the empty spaces in his soul. As he played, Sarah's heart danced in rhythm with his song. She stood at the edge of the crowd, feeling each note vibrate through her, bringing to life moments that had long been buried. Lily, perched on a wooden crate, clapped enthusiastically, her bright eyes sparkling with pride. It was in that moment, among the familiar faces and warm smiles, that they all felt the flicker of possibilities But just as quickly as joy seemed to ignite, a shadow passed over Jake's features during the final strum. The applause faded, leaving only an echo of uncertainty. What if this went away? What if it all fell apart again? The fear seemed to coil around his heart, constricting like a vice. He looked over at Sarah, whose smile wavered as she read the turmoil in his eyes. How could she reassure him when she felt so unsteady herself? Determined not to let this slip away, Sarah squeezed through the crowd, desperation fueling her resolve. She reached Jake just as he was about to step off the stage. Jake! Her voice broke through the noise, and his gaze met hers. They were two pieces of the same puzzle, desperate to connect. You were incredible up there, she exclaimed, her eyes shining with unshed tears. You reminded everyone why they love music. Jake's lips curled into a faint smile, but the worry still lingered. What if it was just a fluke, Mom? What if they don't want to hear me again? He confessed, his voice trembling. No way, she insisted, shaking her head fiercely. This was just the beginning. You have a gift. You need to share it. We're in this together. Her words enveloped him, and for a moment he felt some of that weight lift. But the flicker of doubt remained, sitting heavy in his chest. As night fell and the festival wound down, the whole town sparkled under a tapestry of stars. Residents packed up their booths, laughter lingering in the cool air. Mike found them, a knowing smile creasing his weathered face. You did good, kid, he said to Jake, ruffling his hair. You've got to keep this going. Let it fuel you. But before Jake could respond, an uninvited voice snaked its way through the crowd, shaking Sarah to her core. It was Jenna, the town's most prominent critic, known for her sharp tongue. I saw you up there, but I wouldn't get too comfortable. You'll need more than just one decent song to impress anyone around here. The air felt electric, tension brewing as Jake stiffened beside his mother. Sarah's heart raced, the sting of Jenna's words echoing in her ears. How could she let someone like that seep into their moment? Jake's fists clenched, and Sarah felt her own resolve harden. This was more than just a stage. It was their life, their battle against rejections and expectations. She turned to Jake, her determination shifting into a fierce maternal instinct. Don't listen to her. You are not defined by someone else's opinion. What matters is what you think. We will not let fear pull us back into that darkness. Jake's eyes met hers, a mix of gratitude and lingering worry. He took a deep breath, stepping forward, ready for the fight. But as they stood together, ready to reclaim their narrative, the crowd buzzed with excitement, a small group forming around them, eager to hear Jake's story. This wasn't just about one performance. It was about countless moments that could follow if they dared to keep pushing forward. As conversations sparked and connections blossomed, Sarah realized the power of community wrapped around them, a shield against negativity. Yet beneath it all, there remained that quiet flicker, the ever-present societal shadows lurking in the background, a reminder that not everything would be easy. Sarah took Jake's hand, squeezing gently, silently promising they would walk this path together. But without knowing what lay ahead, they couldn't help but question, what would it take to truly prove their worth? Or was the battle only just beginning? The night air was crisp, filled with the laughter and chatter of families packing up their belongings after the festival. Despite the lingering echoes of Jenna's words, there was a warmth enveloping Jake and Sarah, a sense of unity that pulsed like a heartbeat. Jake glanced at the small group forming around him, faces shining with eagerness. Each smile reflected back at him was like a tiny flame flickering in the dark. It was a moment, he realized, that held the potential to reshape everything. Maybe I can share another song, he whispered to Sarah. Her eyes brightened, and she nodded vigorously, an expression of belief radiating from her. Yes, do it, Jake. Show them who you are. She was the spark that ignited his courage, pushing him to step forward, away from the shadows of doubt. With a shaky breath, he turned to the crowd, every face eager with anticipation. All right, he said, his voice stronger than before. I'm going to play one more. He felt the weight of Jenna's skepticism lift, if only a little, as he prepared to share another piece of his heart. He strummed the opening chords. The world around him faded into a blur. He lost himself in the music, pouring his soul out. The notes danced through the gathering, wrapping around them like a comforting embrace. With each passing second, the night seemed to glow brighter, the stars shining down like a spotlight upon him, But then, just as he reached the chorus, a chilling breeze swept through, and the small group began to murmur. Jake's heart sank, the whispers worming their way into his mind. The doubt once sealed away began to creep back in. What if they don't like this one either? He thought, panic rising in his throat. Sarah sensed the shift in his energy. She moved closer, a steady anchor amidst the storm raging in his heart. Don't listen, Jake. Just keep going, she encouraged, her voice a soothing balm. With every strum he thought of every sacrifice, every moment they had poured into this dream. He thought of all the struggles that shaped him, those sleepless nights and the tears that marked their journey. The song surged, fueled by raw emotion. As the last note hung in the air, silence fell like a heavy curtain. Jake held his breath, fear clawing at him. Then it came, the applause, tentative at first, then building into a thunderous roar. The faces around him lit up with genuine appreciation, not just for the music but for the vulnerability it took to perform. Jake could hardly believe it. There it was, an unmistakable moment of acceptance, a shift in the atmosphere that undid the tight knot of uncertainty within him. But even amid the joy, a familiar figure lingered at the edge of his vision. Jenna stood there, arms crossed, lips pursed. Jake's heart dropped again. Did she still not see the beauty, the power behind his notes? What more could he do to show them all he was ready to fight for this? They shared the spotlight, the light of newfound hope against the shadows of doubt. But as the crowd began to disperse, Jake felt a lingering worry. He was just beginning to rise, yet those voices of rejection still held weight. Sarah glanced at Jake, her own eyes reflecting uncertainty, but behind it lay determination. I think this is just the beginning for us, she said, squeezing his hand. Yeah, but what if Jake started, his voice faltering? What if we keep climbing? She replied gently, cutting off his fear with optimism. A wave of resolve washed over him. The festival might have ended, but their journey was far from over. They were stepping into a world thick with possibilities and challenges. As they walked home under the canopy of stars, a question loomed in Jake's mind. The stage had shifted, but could he truly rise above the doubts that still shadowed him? And how far would they have to go to silence those echoing fears once and for all? Jake and Sarah strolled down the familiar streets, the glow of festival lights fading into the background. The thrill of performance still clung to Jake, but with each step away from the crowd, he felt the weight of Jenna's disapproval settle back in. It gnawed at him like a persistent itch, one he couldn't scratch away. What do you think she really meant? He asked, breaking the silence. His voice was barely above a whisper, filled with a mix of curiosity and dread. I don't know, Sarah said, squeezing his hand again. But let us not worry about her right now. You played beautifully. Her smile was infectious, and Jake couldn't help but grin back. He loved that she could uplift him like this, but doubt still cast a shadow over the moment. They turned onto a quieter street, the night air now carrying a chill that prickled at their skin. Jake felt that warmth from earlier starting to fade, replaced again by uncertainty and anxiety. Would Jenna's words hammer him down before he even had a chance to rise? Look at the stars, Sarah said, pointing up. They're still shining, even when it's dark. Yeah, but what if I'm just not ready? He mused. What if I bomb the next show, or what if no one cares? Then you try again. You're stronger than you think, and you have me beside you, she said firmly. Remember, every artist struggles. You're allowed to fall. Just don't stay down. She had a way of wrapping him in a bubble of encouragement, but even that felt fragile tonight. A question loomed large. What if he couldn't break through? As they approached his house, the comforting glow of the porch light called to him. But the familiar structure felt cold and imposing instead of warm and inviting. Maybe it was the weight of his thoughts or the fear of what lay ahead. Hey, let us not end the night like this. Come on, let us play a little, just us, Sarah suggested, her enthusiasm bubbling over. Now? He asked, hesitating. Absolutely. You need to channel that energy, she insisted. Just like that, she tugged him toward the garage, where their little setup awaited. Once inside, the familiar scent of wood and memories wrapped around him. A few lights strung around the room flickered. Sarah grabbed her guitar, plopping down on a crate, while Jake fidgeted with his. He felt a tug of nostalgia as they settled into their comfortable routine. Okay, how about we make up a song? Something new, something just ours? She proposed, eyes shining. Jake mulled it over, then nodded. He strummed a few chords, letting his fingers ease into the melody. It started as a soft whisper, almost hesitant at first, but soon grew into something more confident, more alive. Sarah's voice filled the room, singing about dreams, fear, and resilience, a captive spin on their current struggles as they played. Laughter flowed more easily, filling the small space until it felt expanded by the joy of creation. This was their sanctuary, where doubts could bend and sway with the music. But as the final note faded, reality crashed in. Jake turned to catch Sarah's eye, but the spark of joy was beginning to flicker, replaced by a look of contemplation that unsettled him. "What's wrong?" he asked, his heart racing. "Nothing, maybe we should share this with someone." She had to be kidding. "Share it?" he repeated, imagining the countless ways that could go wrong. "What if they hate it? Then we try again." "But you'll never know unless you put it out there, right?" Her words hung in the air, a challenge cloaked in encouragement. He felt torn. The prospect of exposure obliterated the warmth they had just created, luring in the fear of rejection. "I don't know if I can. What if they laugh? What if we fail?" But deep down, Jake felt something shifting, a flicker of a daring thought whispering against the doubt that wrapped around him as Sarah started to strum again. The sound of their song resonated, challenging shadows to retreat. "Maybe we can try together," he finally said, finding his footing in the wavering light. Together, she agreed. The path before them blurred with uncertainty, yet beneath it lay an undeniable strength born of artistry and resilience. Their journey was just beginning, and in the distance, a soft buzz caught Jake's ears, a notification on his phone. He picked it up and froze as he read the message. "Hey, are you still playing? I'd love to hear what you've got." The excitement tinged with fear made his heart race. "Who's that?" Sarah asked, peering over his shoulder. Jake couldn't understand why he felt that electric surge of hope and terror at the same time. What if this was a chance he never expected? "Someone who wants to hear our song," he murmured, his voice barely above a whisper. "Let us do it then." Sarah smiled, but he couldn't shake that nagging feeling. They had taken a brave step, but would it lead them to triumph or crash back into fear? A glimmer of possibility flickered, and Jake realized they might just be dancing on the brink of change, and uncertainty was only part of the dance. What lay ahead was unpredictable, but he couldn't help feeling that this moment was the start of something new, something worth fighting for. And there, stuck in the unresolved tension between dreams and fears, he wondered, was he truly ready to take that leap? Jake's thumb hovered over the screen of his phone, his heart pounding as he read the message again. It felt like a dare, an invitation that both thrilled and terrified him. "Do you know who it is?" Sarah asked, her eyes wide, filled with eager curiosity. "Not really. Just someone from the festival." "Do you think they heard us?" she pressed, bouncing slightly on the crate, a mix of excitement and nervous energy radiating from her. "I guess," Jake replied, still staring at the screen. The thought of playing for someone outside their little bubble sent panic rushing through him. What if they didn't like it? What if they laughed? "Jake, this is amazing," Sarah said, nudging him playfully. "We could finally share what we've been creating." "It's just a message," he muttered, dragging a hand through his hair. The weight of uncertainty pressed down harder. "What if they don't get it? Or what if they love it?" she countered, her voice rising with encouragement. "We won't know unless we try." He took a deep breath, feeling the warmth of her support but battling the cold grip of fear. "Okay, but it's just the two of us right now. What if we really suck?" "Then we suck together," she laughed lightly, her faith in him unwavering. He couldn't help but smile at her, though the idea of performing for someone beyond this garage tightened his chest. "All right," he finally said, bringing his phone closer. "Let us send a message back." With a few shaky taps, he replied, suggesting a casual jam session at their place, a way to ease into whatever this might become. He hit send, the act feeling monumental. He watched the screen as if it held the weight of their future. "Done," he said, swallowing hard. The anxious energy rippled between them. Moments felt like hours, but the buzzer rang out unexpectedly, jolting them both. Jake's heart leaped as he checked his phone. "Can you do this now?" The response read, "I'll be over in 10. Whoa, that was fast. He tilted his head, wonder and dread battling inside. "What should we do?" "Just be ourselves," Sarah said, her voice reassuring. "You've got this. Let us play our song again. For real this time. Yeah. He nodded, his fingers grazing across the guitar strings, trying to find the rhythm that had once felt so natural. Let us get ready. As they played the song again, the once comfortable notes now felt heavy. What if their melody didn't resonate? What if it fell flat? He could feel the impending arrival of this stranger inching closer with each strum. Breathe, Jake, Sarah whispered. Remember, it's just us. He closed his eyes, blocking out doubt, losing himself in the music, allowing their emotions to flow into the notes. Just as he lost track of time, a knock sounded against the garage door. Jake froze midstrum, his heart racing. Do we answer? He whispered, panic creeping into his voice. Yes. Who cares? You're an artist, Sarah said, grinning. She hopped off the crate and stepped to the door, her confidence a breath of fresh air as she opened the door. A silhouette stood on the threshold, illuminated by the faint glow of the overhead light. The figure was unfamiliar, and Jake's stomach twisted uncomfortably. Hey, I'm Mark, the newcomer said, stepping into the garage, a friendly smile on his face. The warmth in his expression eased Jake's nerves a fraction. Hi, we're Jake and Sarah, Jake stammered, glancing at Sarah, who returned an encouraging nod. Mind if I listen? Mark asked, settling in casually against the doorframe. Yeah, of course, Jake replied, feeling a rush of adrenaline. We were just about to play a new song, Sarah said, nudging him gently. Jake met her eyes, uncertainty mingling with the thrill of possibility. He nodded, ready to give it a shot. As he took a deep breath, he could feel the moment shift. And without hesitation, he resumed the melody, the notes spilling out into the air, echoing his heartbeat. He had no idea how Mark would respond. He had no idea how far this would take them. But this was it, a leap into the unknown. In that moment, Jake realized the true challenge was not just about performing. It was about sharing a piece of themselves. Would they soar in harmony or crash under the weight of expectations? As the final notes hung in the air, the room filled with silence. Jake held his breath, waiting for the response that could either validate or shatter everything he hoped for. What was the verdict? The silence lingered thick and heavy, like a storm cloud ready to burst. Jake's heart pounded in his chest as he exchanged a glance with Sarah. Her eyes sparkled with a mixture of hope and nerves. The seconds felt infinite, like they were suspended in some kind of emotional limbo. Finally, Mark clapped his hands once, a bright sound that shattered the stillness. That was awesome, he exclaimed, a wide grin spreading across his face. Seriously, you two have something special. Jake felt a wave of relief wash over him, accompanied by a swell of pride. He could see Sarah's face light up beside him. You really liked it? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper, as if afraid to disturb the moment. Absolutely, Mark replied, leaning forward with genuine enthusiasm. You both have a great vibe together. The energy is infectious. What's the story behind the song? Jake hesitated, searching for the words. It's kind of about, well, taking risks, I guess. About stepping out of your comfort zone. That's exactly what you did. Mark nodded, his eyes shining. I mean, coming here, you took that leap and it shows in the music. Sarah chimed in, her excitement bubbling over. We've been playing together for a while now. Just in our garage. We hope to get noticed. Well, you're already on your way, Mark said, a playful seriousness in his tone. Just picture it. The next big thing in music, the garage duo everyone's talking about. Jake chuckled, but underneath the laughter, doubt still lurked. Would it really happen? Could they take this one moment and turn it into something bigger? Do you do music too? Jake asked, curious to peel back the layers of this unexpected visitor. Yeah, Mark replied, running a hand through his hair. I play guitar and write songs. More for fun, though. But I know some folks at a local cafe who host open mic nights. You should totally try it. The idea sent a jolt of electricity through Jake. Open mic. The thought was both thrilling and terrifying. He glanced at Sarah, who bit her lip, contemplating. Is it really worth it? Jake asked quietly, insecurity creeping in. What if we mess up? What if no one connects with us? Then you learn, right? Mark said. That's the whole point of putting yourself out there. Music is meant to be shared, and every time you play, you get a little better. Jake felt a shift in the air, a sense of awakening. Mark's words resonated with something deep inside him, You're right. I mean, what's the worst that could happen? It could change everything, Sarah murmured, her gaze floating to the ceiling as if envisioning the possibilities. We've always dreamed of sharing our music. This could be our chance. Exactly, Mark said, a spark of excitement in his eyes. So let us make it happen. I'll help you get ready for the open mic. We can practice together. Jake felt an exhilarating rush at the thought. With Mark in their corner, maybe they could really do this. But beneath it all, the question lingered. Could they embrace this chance without letting fear take hold? As they began talking logistics, practice schedules, song choices, the room pulsed with renewed energy. Jake found himself smiling more freely, sharing jokes and ideas, his previous worries fading. But in the depths of his mind, a nagging doubt remained. Yes, they could take this leap. But would they be ready when the spotlight finally hit them? Mark's laughter broke through his thoughts, and Jake realized they were surrounded by the three of them, visions of open mics and songs swirling like confetti. All right, let us set a date, Mark said, his enthusiasm contagious. Jake and Sarah exchanged glances, the weight of potential looming ahead as they dove back into their music. Jake felt a shift within him, a blend of fervor and trepidation. Would this be the start of their story, or just another dream left unfulfilled? The closer they got to that first performance, the more questions piled up, questions deep enough to keep him awake at night. Could they rise to the occasion? Or would fear once again snuff out their light before it even shone? He looked up, scanning Sarah's face filled with determination and excitement, a mirror image of his own stirring resolve. Together they were stronger, but what would that truly mean when push came to shove? Little did they know, the answer awaited just beyond the stage, where their greatest challenge was only beginning. Jake paced the cramped living room, feeling the weight of the world on his shoulders. The date for the open mic was only a week away, and every tick of the clock echoed his anxiety in the silence. Mark's words hung in the air, vibrant yet daunting. As he strummed his guitar absent-mindedly, his mind churned through the fears that lay beneath the surface. Across the room, Sarah sat on the edge of the couch, her fingers dancing over the keys of a tiny keyboard they'd salvaged together. She was composing something fresh, her brow furrowed in concentration. The music spilled softly, but Jake couldn't focus. Each note ignited a mixture of hope and dread within him. Hey, what are you thinking about? She asked, looking up and catching him lost in thought. Her voice was soothing, like a gentle breeze that brushed away his worries for a moment. Just everything. He sighed deeply, flopping onto the couch next to her. What if we screw this up, Sarah? What if they don't even like what we play? She paused, and for a second, Jake could see the flicker of doubt in her eyes too. Then a smile broke through. What if they do? What if we blow them away? Jake chuckled softly. You really think we can do that? I know we can, she said, her voice firm yet tender. We've worked hard and it feels right. Let us just be ourselves. Doesn't he have to be perfect? He sighed again, knowing she had a point, but the fear still clawed at him. It's just exposing ourselves to strangers. What if they hate us? That's part of it, isn't it? Being vulnerable? She replied, her face lighting up. The music, our songs, they're a part of us. Sharing them can be scary, but think about how freeing it can be. If nothing else, we'll have fun together. Jake smiled, appreciating her spark. You're right. Maybe it's time to embrace the chaos. As they rehearsed, the sounds filled the room, filling the tight walls with something beautiful. Each strum of Jake's guitar felt more confident as Sarah's voice soared above the chords. Choosing the song for the open mic felt monumental, but it became easier with every note they played. That evening after practice, Jake sat in his backyard, staring at the stars above. The vastness of the night sky made him feel small, yet somehow connected. Beneath this overwhelming canopy, he handed over the reins of his worry to the universe. Taking risks was new territory for him, but the idea of staying stagnant terrified him more. Jake? Sarah's voice called softly, breaking through his thoughts. He turned to see her standing at the door, her silhouette framed by the soft glow of the kitchen light. Come in. Think we should talk. Inside, over mugs of warm cocoa, Sarah shared her own fears. I always felt the need to be perfect, she admitted, her voice almost a whisper. But I'm learning that those flaws make us real. I want us to connect. I don't want to hide anymore. Jake nodded, understanding on a deeper level. What if stumbling through this journey was half the beauty of it? I think I need to remember that it's okay if we're not perfect. But I'm afraid we'll open ourselves up to rejection. True, she said softly, but what if our music resonates with even one person? What if it connects us to something bigger? We're not just chasing an audience. We're sharing our journey. Her words ignited a fire within him. Suddenly, that small possibility felt like a tidal wave of hope. Would they find their voice or tumble into chaos? The next day, they headed to cafe for the open mic, adrenaline surging through them both. Jake's heart raced as they stood backstage, the sounds of chatter and laughter floating in the air. Are we ready? He asked, glancing at Sarah, who looked determined. We can't go back now, she replied, squeezing his hand. But as they stepped into the light, Jake's pulse quickened with panic. Would this be acceptance or rejection? Would they finally be heard? In that moment, everything fell silent as the crowd turned their eyes toward them, an eager expectation settling in the air. What would happen next would change everything forever. Jake stood frozen, his heart hammering against his chest. The bright stage lights were blinding, but the faces peering back at him were a blur of anticipation and curiosity. Each second felt stretched, a tiny eternity of anticipation that left him teetering on the brink of doubt. Were they going to laugh, critique, or would they find some semblance of truth in the songs they'd poured their emotions into? He could feel Sarah's hand in his, warm and steady, pulling him back from the edge of his spiraling thoughts. Just breathe, she whispered, her eyes sparkling with encouragement as the MC gestured for them to take their place. Jake stepped forward, his guitar hanging heavy and familiar against him. He stole a glance at Sarah, who nodded confidently. Let us do this, she mouthed, taking a deep breath. He adjusted his grip on the neck of the guitar. The first strum shattered the silence and sent a shiver down his spine. The sound was rich, and for a fleeting moment, he felt their connection to the music. With Sarah's voice blending beautifully with his chords, the nerves began to simmer. They started their song and something magical happened. The notes interlaced, creating a tapestry of sound that felt bigger than both of them. As Sarah sang the chorus, her voice rang clear and true, filling the cafe with emotion. They were lost in their bubble of creativity, the fears of judgment fading into the background. But just as he started to feel truly present, the crowd's demeanor shifted. Jake caught a few half-hearted smiles from the front, but mainly there was a sense of restlessness creeping through the audience. He looked over at Sarah, who was still glowing, unaware of the uneasiness in the crowd. Just then, a loud clatter rang out as someone knocked over their drink by the stage. The laughter that erupted felt like a knife. Instead of support, there was a subtle detachment as more heads turned to the exit, signaling their disinterest. Jake's heart sank. Each note they played was now met with murmurs, as if the air had thickened around them. The last chord rang out, and Sarah held a note, hoping for applause, but what followed was sparse. Few clapped, and he could sense the kindness fading into polite indifference. The weight of their rejection pressed down on him harder than he had anticipated. He gave a small nod as they wrapped up, feeling utterly exposed. What was meant to be a celebration of their efforts crumbled into something he never saw coming, a rejection that felt more personal than he could handle. Sarah turned to him, concern etched on her face. Jake, that was different. I thought it felt good. Did it? He replied, his voice barely above a whisper. The thrill of performing had vanished, replaced by a gnawing sense of failure. What had gone wrong? As they stepped off the stage, people behind them began to chatter. The hum of the crowd felt deafening, amplifying their vulnerability. Jake wondered, would their dreams still hold weight in the face of this setback? Maybe we just need to regroup, Sarah suggested, trying to catch his eye. It was our first time. We won't let it break us. He didn't respond. Instead, they lingered near the back, distanced from the laughter. Uncertainty enveloped him, and with each passing moment, the connection between their hopes and reality seemed to fray. What if the music they shared didn't resonate with anyone? What if this moment tore at the very fabric of their partnership? As Jake stared into the crowd, searching for a glimmer of hope, he wondered if they had the strength to rise from this disappointment. Could they turn this experience into something that pushed them forward? In that quiet desperation, he thought of the songs yet to be written. As the whispers of doubt began to echo in his mind, he felt Sarah's presence steadfast like the moon in the night sky. Let us get out of here, he finally muttered. And just like that, they walked back through the crowded cafe unseen, unheard, but holding on to the flicker of possibility that resided beyond their fears. Could this moment of rejection be the catalyst for a new beginning? Would they find strength in failure or let it bury them? As they slipped out into the night, the cool air hit Jake's face, and he felt part of the weight lift like a balloon released into the sky. But the sting of the performance lingered, gnawing at him. He glanced at Sarah, who walked beside him with a determined stride, her expression a mixture of concern and hope. "Hey," she said softly, breaking the silence. "We did step out on that stage. That counts for something, right?" He offered her a tight smile but couldn't shake the feeling of dread. But was it enough? It felt like they didn't even hear us. Maybe they just weren't the right audience. She was optimistic, but he struggled to believe her. "Or maybe we're just not good enough," Jake admitted, his voice cracking just a bit. "I wanted to share our songs, but what if people really don't connect?" They strolled in silence for a moment, the sound of footsteps echoing on the pavement. Each step felt heavy, weighted down by self-doubt. Jake's mind raced, swirling with the wreckage of their dreams. "Let us not give up yet," Sarah urged, gently squeezing his hand. "We'll find people who will appreciate what we create together." "How?" Jake replied, a flicker of anger igniting in his words. "What if we keep pouring our hearts out and never get it right?" Her eyes met his, steady and unwavering. "Then we keep trying. That's what artists do," she said firmly, almost as if she was reminding herself as much as him. "And we have each other no matter what." Jake hated that he was wobbling on the edge of hope. But maybe she was right. Maybe this wasn't the end. Perhaps it was a bump in the road, a twist in their story. They wandered closer to a small park, where streetlights cast a warm glow across benches, inviting people to sit and share their thoughts. They paused beside one and Jake sat down, the guitar resting on his knee. "Can we play?" Sarah's eyes flashed with optimism again, and he hesitated. He didn't feel up for it, but she nodded encouragingly. "What if we just played for us? No audience, just the two of us?" With a shaky breath, he found a thin smile again. "'Kay, just us then." As Sarah dug into her bag, pulling out her ukulele, Jake's fingers brushed against the guitar strings. The familiar sensation brought a rush of warmth. They began to play softly, creating their little cocoon away from the world. The melody wrapped around them as laughter and chatter faded into the background. Soon, their fears receded, washed away by the joy of shared music. They lost themselves in each note, eyes sparkling, drifting to what their dreams looked like when untethered by expectations. It was raw, it was real, and it felt like coming home again. But as they played, Jake caught sight of someone watching them from a distance, a stranger with a curious expression, a hint of a smile playing on their lips. Caught off guard, Jake's fingers faltered, his heart thumping at the thought of another audience. Even if this one was just one person. What if they think we're terrible? He mumbled, breaking their moment. "Then they think we're terrible," Sarah replied, unflinching. "But right now we're just making something beautiful together." In that moment, realization washed over him like a wave. Their music wasn't just about applause or acceptance, it was about connection. Jake frowned thoughtfully. As he looked back at the stranger, a spark ignited within him, a touch of rebellion against the echo of earlier rejection. "Maybe that's the secret," he whispered, a new strength unfurling in his chest. "Maybe we need to forget about the critics and focus on the people who matter most, ourselves and those who really hear us." With renewed determination, he strummed the guitar harder, and Sarah matched his intensity. The notes radiated into the night, and laughter bubbled up from within. As the stranger stepped closer, Jake found himself wondering, could this one small spark lead to a larger flame? Would they find their true audience among the unexpected? As the last chords crescendoed into silence, Jake felt a shift within him, like a long-held breath finally released. The warmth of their music lingered in the air like a tender hug, somehow weaving through the tension that had settled in his heart. That stranger who had lingered at the edge of the park was now stepping closer, curiosity shining in their eyes. "Hey," the stranger said, breaking into their bubble. "That was amazing. I loved the energy." Jake blinked, taken aback. He opened his mouth to respond, but words eluded him. Sarah's expression mirrored his surprise, but her eyes sparkled with hope. "Thank you," she said, smiling widely. Jake's heart fluttered. Could it be true? Were they really connecting with someone outside their small world? You liked it? Jake managed, his voice a mixture of disbelief and excitement. Absolutely. Do you perform often? The stranger asked, an eager glint in their eyes. Kind of, but this was our first real attempt, Sarah replied, her voice laced with enthusiasm. The stranger nodded, seeming genuinely impressed. You both have a unique sound. I can see you playing at more places. I run an open mic at the cafe. You should come back. I'll make sure to put you on the schedule. Joy exploded in Jake's heart. A balloon filling with helium defying gravity. An opportunity. This was the very thing they had talked about sharing their music beyond the safety of their home, beyond the shadows of rejection. Really? You'd let us play again? He asked, hardly containing his amazement. Of course. You have something special, the stranger insisted, beaming with encouragement. It deserves to be heard. Just remember it's about the journey and not just the applause. Jake exchanged a glance with Sarah, the light of understanding passing between them. They had weathered doubt together, turned setbacks into stepping stones, and here was tangible proof that they could rise again, that their resilience had burned brightly enough to attract connection. As the stranger left, a flurry of excitement replaced the fear that had been festering in Jake's heart. Did you hear that? He exclaimed, turning to Sarah. We really can do this. We're not done yet. Her laughter bubbled up like spring water bursting forth after a long winter. Yes, this is just the start. We'll go back to that cafe and show them who we are. Together. Underneath the blanket of stars, they began to talk about their new song, their journey, and the possibilities stretched ahead of them. It was as if the chains of disappointment had finally shattered, allowing the fresh air of hope to fill their lungs. Back home, with the guitar by his side, Jake sat down at the edge of his bed. He pulled out a notebook, pages filled with thoughts and lyrics that carved out the rough sketches of his world. Let us write about this, he said to Sarah, excitement dancing in his eyes. About our fears, our triumphs. Let us celebrate the fight. As the pages filled with new ideas, Jake felt the musical notes swell within him again, stronger, more determined. Their words became a testament to their journey, each line intertwined with the raw truth of vulnerability and strength. Days turned into rehearsals, the sound of their music echoing in the corners of their small world, and soon, the rhythm of their collaboration began to draw an audience. Friends, family, and even acquaintances who had once whispered doubts. People flocked, intrigued by the stories woven in every chord, ignited by the fire that radiated from the passion they poured into their craft. The night of the next open mic arrived. This time Jake stood backstage, his heart steady. The echo of laughter and conversation mixed in the air, igniting a sense of belonging. Sarah stood beside him, her hand gripping his shoulder for support. You ready? She asked, her smile illuminating his spirit. Yeah, he said, confidence blooming within him. I'm ready. When they stepped into the light, the faces blurred into the welcoming warmth of community, a tapestry of connection woven by shared stories. He opened his mouth to sing, and instead of doubt he found strength. With Sarah's harmonies wrapping around him like an embrace, they shared their new song, their music now a reflection of hope, resilience, and the beauty of embracing imperfections. By the end of their performance, applause erupted, thunderous and heartfelt. But what filled Jake's heart even more than the clapping hands, he realized, were the smiles in the crowd, people who saw them, who heard them. And in that moment he knew this was not just about success or failure. It was about connection, about daring to be seen and heard. Their journey unfolded before them, bright with promise and understanding. And as Jake locked eyes with Sarah, pride radiating like sunlight, he whispered softly, "We are enough." It was a shared realization, a truth they now carried in their hearts, a truth that would guide them forward, as they stepped boldly into a world brimming with music, possibility, and love. This was the beginning of their adventure, a beautiful expression of their transformed family, united not just by blood, but by the power of dreams, resilience, and unwavering support. And just like that, the struggle to rise from unexpected rejection evolved into an inspiring journey of growth, a melody of triumph that would echo long after the last note had faded. Now, if you're inspired like I am by Jake and Sarah's journey, you need to subscribe now to the channel. This is the moment to show your support, because you don't want to miss the next exclusive story. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help us reach more incredible people out there. Comment below your reactions and feelings about this. Ending your insights matter. And don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. Let us spread hope and resilience together.